the Society of Petroleum Engineers presents SPE Tech Talk. Today's Tech Talk is brought to you by TechTAC.
Welcome and thank you for joining us for this SPE Tech Talk with TechTAC. I'm your host for this broadcast, Joe Sinnott. And on today's show, we are joined by our friends at TechTAC to talk about the business impact of deploying slim style tubing anchor catchers. We will also highlight the case studies of 3 operators who have seen substantial improvements in production and uptime by making that one simple downhole change. And as always, we invite you, the audience, to interact with today's broadcast by sharing your thoughts and questions about today's topic. So please use the comment section on LinkedIn or SPE Energy Stream, and our guests will answer as many of your questions as possible later in the show. 2 other great ways to interact with today's broadcast are 1, to let us know where you're watching from, and 2, to answer today's audience poll question, which is, which of these factors is currently your number 1 priority with your rod pump wells? Is it A, maximizing crude production, B, minimizing downtime and workovers, C, lowering lifting costs, D, holding your breath and hoping nothing breaks, or E, something else? Simply type your answer on LinkedIn or Energy Stream, and we'll take a look at the results later in the show with our guests. And speaking of our guests, let's go ahead and introduce them. Starting with Luke Reary, who is joining us today from Vernal, Utah. Luke is Director of Project Management for TechTAC. He is responsible for the product roadmap and strategic direction for all of TechTAC's downhole tubing anchor solutions, including the patented Slimline TAC. Since joining TechTAC in 2009, Luke has collaborated with engineers, field personnel, and service companies across North America to build and deliver the highest quality anchoring products. Prior to TechTAC, Luke spent several years as a heavy equipment operator in Utah in close proximity to the oil patch. Luke also completed coursework at both Brigham Young University and Utah State University. Next, joining us from Louisiana today is Bruce Friesen, former Global Artificial Lift Advisor for BP. With more than 40 years of experience in oil fields across 23 countries, Bruce understands the challenges petroleum engineers face in trying to maximize production and minimize downtime. During his time at BP, Bruce consulted with customers around the world on artificial lift strategies and downhole tool assemblies. Prior to his work at BP, Bruce held senior engineering roles at Amoco and Diamond Shamrock, and Bruce earned 2 bachelor's degrees from the University of Wyoming, 1 in petroleum engineering and a 2nd in mechanical engineering. And he's a registered professional engineer in the state of Texas, where he continues to consult with numerous operators, vendors, and service companies. So with that, hello, Luke and Bruce, and welcome to SPE Tech Talk.
Thank you. Good to see you again, Jim.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. We'll start with you, Bruce. You know, the benefits of deploying the slim style tubing anchor catcher and rod pump wells, we've covered that in lots of different SPE venues over the years, but could you, given your expertise, give us a quick refresher on what those benefits are?
Sure, love to, Joe. I have a lot of experience physically in the oil patch, in the oil field, with drilling completions, artificial lift production, and a lot of effort spent trying to mitigate problems downhole to increase production. And one of the things, not only with the physical aspects or the knowledge or the field work, is also the understanding the engineering of why certain things work and certain things don't. So when I joined TechTAC and first was introduced to the product, I wanted to understand the physical engineering of the system and also apply it to the knowledge that I had over 40 years in different areas running rod pumps. And so we did a computational fluid dynamics study so that we could see what the fluid, the gas flow was like in the annulus, around the anchor, inside the casing, because I felt like that was probably, from my field experience, one of the major causes of decreased production, increased workover costs. So we did an extensive CFD study to model for pressure drop, velocity, turbulence, vorticity, and it was just almost exactly what I thought was being was hindering production and gas production in wells based on my physical field knowledge. And this is a graphical representation on the screen of the CFD study. Basically what it boils down to, it proves exactly what I thought, that a standard B2 type anchor was a choke point, a choke point in the well that was hindering production. And how was it hindering production? Well, it's all about velocity. Velocity creates pressure drop. It's a Bernoulli equation. And when you have a choke point and you increase velocity, you increase turbulence. And what does that cause? Well, that causes the formation of scale, iron sulfide, paraffin, and decreases the optimal flow of the gas up the annulus between the tubing and the casing, which eventually leads to gas lock in your rod pumps and inefficient rod pumping. And I've seen these issues, these problems all over the world with rod pumps. So what does the slimline do? It's very simple concept. It creates a larger pathway between the tubing anchor and the casing in the annulus. It just reduces to almost eliminates the choke point that a standard anchor creates. So if you eliminate pressure drop, you decrease the velocity and the turbulence and the swirling vorticity, thereby allowing gas to flow up the annulus to the surface and not gas lock the pump, reduces or eliminates the formation of scale, iron sulfide, paraffin, and also on the workover side, decreases the chances of a stuck anchor by allowing sand, different things that happen within the annulus from building up over the anchor and sticking or planting the anchor, causing a fishing job that can cost a lot of money. So it's about increasing production, reducing the choke point, and then also reducing workover cost, because you're also reducing the chance of sticking and planting your anchor because of the reduced area between the anchor and the casing wall.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you for setting the stage there. And, you talked through all the benefits and, why we're talking about this here today. But my understanding is that, there is still one use case, at least up until recently, that, these slim style anchors, really wasn't compatible with. So, Luke, can you tell us what that case is and, of course, how it's being addressed now with new technology?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've had, the slim lines we created some time ago, and they've been around and set in thousands of wells. There was a specific instance where sometimes operators either couldn't or just plain out didn't want to use a slim line. And that specific case is when you're running 2 7/8 tubing and you want to put the tubing anchor above the seat nipple. The current, or I guess I should say the old style slim line has a 2-inch ID, and whether the connections were 2 7/8 or 2 3/8, the ID didn't change. So if you were running 2 7/8 tubing, you'd have to put the tubing anchor below the seat nipple, which honestly is a lot of times that's the optimal place for it anyway. We still sell, a lot of anchors where people by design put them below the seat nipple in 2 7/8 tubing. But like I said, there were those cases where maybe it's the well design or just the operator's preference. They did not want to put the anchor below the seat nipple, which means they had to, typically use like a Baker B2 style anchor above. But that could lead to the issues that Bruce just kind of outlined there. So, using some just our knowledge of tubing anchors and some input from our companies that we work with and internally, we were able to develop and kind of take the best of both worlds, take the full bore ID of the V2 style, but also maintain the slim style OD of our slimline tubing anchor catchers, and we came up with the slimline full bore TAC.
Got it. All right. And, as a reminder for our audience, as we talk about this technology, as we talk about different, case studies and areas where they might work better than others, this is a perfect opportunity for our audience to share your comments, share your questions, share your skepticism. We got two experts here today, so use that comment box freely. And again, we'll get to as many of your questions and comments later on in the show. But for now, I still got plenty of my own questions. So Luke, I guess sticking with you, results. So obviously we set the stage for, how this works, why it works. But, for those who have, been early adopters of this new technology, what are they seeing?
For sure. Yeah. We've been working on this anchor for a number of years now. I mean, it's not something that we just kind of, hey, let's do this and run with it. We like to, get as much information, try to get it as best we can, and obviously develop a prototype for it. And that's what we did a few years ago, or a couple of years ago. We were able to find a company. The first one was actually in the DJ Basin, and they had 3 particular wells that they had deployed the new slim style anchor, or the slimline full bore anchor in. And what they did is they just replaced it. Again, tubing anchor V2 style was above the seat nipple. They just changed the anchor. That's the only change that was made. Changed the V2 style for our new full bore style. On all 3 of those wells, and they were mature wells, they saw almost identical increases in that it was 100% increase in production in all 3 wells, roughly around 40 barrels per day up to around 80. A significant and noticeable increase. With that came around a 25 to 30% increase in gas being discharged to surface. You didn't have the gas locking issues, kind of what Bruce outlined before. 15 to 25% increase in pump fillage, all based on the dynamometer cards. And they absolutely were able to kind of prove concept on those. Hey, there is something here. This absolutely worked for us. The second one was down in the Eagle Ford Basin, in similar situation. Again, they're just replacing the anchor, B2 style anchor above the seat nipple, put in a slimline full bore. Again, mature well. This one saw a production increase of 300%, which is great. This one, the production was a little lower. It actually was doing around 5 barrels per day, but it went up to 15. Oftentimes it would reach 20 as well. Even though it's a smaller producing well, how many of those wells are in the, do operators have that, they're 5, 10 barrels per day? Well, if you get, 200, 300% increase, well, now you're talking 30, 45 barrels or more. These are significant numbers. More gas being produced, able to sell, obviously ultimately more money. And then the third one was actually in the Permian Basin. Similar situation. They had a specific well that it was often challenging for them. In fact, this particular well would typically only last about 30 days before they had to change everything out. The anchor, the pumps, they just had gas locking, sediment buildup. It was just kind of one of those challenging wells, which I'm sure operators can relate to. The record for this well between workovers was actually only 66 days. So you can tell these guys were very happy about that. We were able to talk to them, got the anchor to them, and just said, hey, let's just try this. Let's just run the full bore in place of the B2 and see what happens. Well, just with that change, they were able to produce without incident for more than 180 days before they had to pull. So that's around 2.5 times the previous record. And as a side note, it wasn't anything to do with the anchor why they had to pull. They just had regular pump changes and things like that is why they actually ended up pulling the anchor. So if you figure that a typical workover, is around 3 days, 2 to 3 days, then this added more than a dozen production days, not to mention, the cost of the workover, new pump, tack, rods, any of the stuff they were having to change, they were able to go around 2.5 times longer. So real money, real results is what they were able to experience. So overall, a great success for them.
Great. All right. Well, thank you for sharing those results, those, I guess, relatively recent results, at least compared to, Bruce's 40 years. So Bruce, hop in the time machine here. As we said in the intro, you've got what, 4 decades of experience. You were the global artificial lift advisor for BP for many years. So let me ask you, if you would have had a technology like this available during that time, what, if any, changes would you have made to the recommendations that you made, in regards to well optimization?
Oh, yes, absolutely. What I like about this product is we did the science behind why this anchor reduces the choke point. We did the CFD study, and changing in the oil patch, what's unique and what's really an advantage is when something makes common sense, it doesn't cost much money to implement, it's easy to implement, and it has great results. And that's what this product does. So I mean, it's a no-brainer. Why not switch one product to another? It's easy to do, it's easy to get, the product doesn't cost much more money, and you get a lot of advantages out of it. We validated that with the science, but it's common sense. So it's just an easy product change that it's just right across the board. You're not having to implement a whole bunch of workover differences. You're not having to spend a whole lot of money, and you get all these advantages. It's the best of all worlds. An easy change for a better product that basically cures a lot of problems.
All right. Well, I think easy and curing problems, that's a pretty strong sell there. So we'll appreciate those insights. And again, leaning on your expertise there, great reminder again for our audience that we have decades of experience here. We have expertise. We're bringing this to you live so that you can engage. So again, we still have time. Add your questions. We will get to as many of them as possible. But for now, I want to revisit a question that we asked of our audience at the beginning of this episode. And that was, all right, if you're looking at your priorities when it comes to rod pump wells, what's your number one priority? Was it A, maximizing crew production, B, minimizing downtime and workovers, lowering lifting costs, holding your breath and simply hoping that nothing breaks, or again, something else? I think by and large, answers tend to lean towards maximizing crew production, but I'm curious, regardless of what our audience thinks today, for Luke, Bruce, what do you tend to see? When people say, all right, hey, this is our number one priority, this is what we're looking to accomplish with your technology or whatever else is out there, what are you finding?
Yeah, if I had to guess and I had my own wells, I would probably lean towards getting better production. I think ultimately that's what everybody's trying to do. Get components that work together, get you the best efficient product. So again, that's why these small changes, like Bruce mentioned, an anchor in the whole scheme of things is a relatively inexpensive component, but has very, very large impact on how a well can produce or not produce. So being able to get a product out there that kind of is the best of both worlds. It still relies on the same setting style as the B2. Everybody's familiar with it. It just now has a slimmer OD. You can mitigate some of the issues that have been in the oil field for a long time.
Got it. All right. Well, and I guess with prices where they are, I guess more production is probably going to stay on people's top of their list there. So good. So I guess regardless of people's motivation, I do want to come back to one thing that Bruce said earlier. So Bruce, a couple of times you referenced the CFD study. So again, you gave a couple of points, couple of takeaways. Any other takeaways? Any other insights from that research that can help explain the science behind the impact of these slim style tacks?
Well, the computational fluid dynamics study just completely outlines graphical form. You can see the colors, you can see the flow patterns, and it completely validates what we thought was going on downhole. So we did the mathematics and the science to back up what we thought, to have the technical engineering side of it done. And then, as Luke mentioned, I mean, the bang for the buck is an increase in production. That's really the validation. You've got a very in-depth CFD study on one side, the mathematics and the engineering, and then on the other side, you've got real life case histories that have proven that if you remove the choke point, you remove a lot of obstacles to optimizing production. You know, the fines, the scale, the impedance in the annulus around the plugging of the anchor, the mitigation of a gas lock rod pump, which is everybody. I mean, that everybody fights that in a number of ways and spends a lot of money on that, and that can cause a lot of problems: parted rods, holes in the tubing, stuck, all kinds of different things, decreased production, high fluid levels. But you know, like I say, you've got a very intensive science on one side, validating real world results, case histories, and in between you've got, like Luke said, like I said, you got a very relatively inexpensive, easy fix for a lot of problems. So, you know, you should just run a slimline all the time. And there's other benefits we're not mentioning, you know, a lot of in the ease of setting and the release and the design and the metallurgy and everything that, you know, when I first came on board years ago, I was skeptic, and I asked Sean and the guys in the factory and Luke, I ran them through the ringer. I've got all this oil patch experience. I got the PE degree and the mechanical degree. We talked about metallurgy. We talked about construction. We talked about, you know, all the design that went into these, the robustness it had to have to pull, you know, the same amount of tension as a B2 anchor or more. So the construction and the metallurgy of this anchor is better than a standard anchor you can get off the shelf B2 anchor. Plus you get all these benefits, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's not like you're refracking a well or side tracking, or, you know, you're just spending a few $100 plus or minus, and you get all these benefits. So there's, like I keep saying, it's a no-brainer just to run this piece of equipment. It's not like you're, you know, redesigning elastomers for a packer or a special kind of profile nipple. This is, you put it in the string, you set it, you walk away, you get these benefits. It's. I mean, like I say, if I was still at BP, it would be a mandatory installation for all rod pump wells.
All right. Well, I think we've established, I think, you know, both of you maybe have used the word no-brainer directly or indirectly. So let's run with the fact that, okay, we're going to run these things. Let's get into some tactics, some actual implementation considerations. So one of which, and again, I'll turn back to you, Luke, you know, does TechTAC or maybe you individually have a recommendation on whether tubing anchors, you know, should they be placed above or below the seat nipple?
Sure. Great question. One of the good things about being in the anchor world is we kind of design the hammer, and we leave it up to the operators and the engineers to build the house. We just provide a tool. So ultimately they're the best ones to determine where to set the anchor, but we just give them more options, and we can kind of, you know, give them some case studies or some history. Whereas before, you know, like with a typical B2 anchor, you were kind of pigeonholed into, hey, you got to set it above the pump, above the seat nipple. If you set it below, there's a good chance you're going to get sanded in, you're going to get stuck. You know, there just wasn't enough annular flow by. Well, now there is. So we often, you know, go back and forth with engineers. Okay, well, where are you setting it now? Okay, do you have room to put it below the seat nipple? What's the pros and cons? So, you know, really it comes down to working with the engineers and kind of giving them the arrow, so to speak, that they can shoot or not shoot, depending on the well makeup.
Got it. All right. Well, I guess sticking with that, you know, sort of the interactions, the communication back and forth between TechTAC and those who are actually, you know, operating these things. What about when a situation arises where a rig crew is complaining? They say, look, you know, we got TACs that are prematurely setting, and, you know, they're concerned, whether it's, you know, history or whatever. So what do you tell them? I mean, how do you avoid, you know, premature setting of TACs?
For sure. There's probably two ways to mitigate a lot of issues running in and running out. The first one is prep your casing. You know, if you're running a bit and scraper, make sure that you give the anchor and the pump and the tools a fair chance to actually do what they're supposed to do. So you want to clean up your well as best as possible. The second one is, as you're tripping in, And this isn't only with our anchor. This is with the B2s, the old style slimlines. Just by the design of the well, sometimes the tool will have a tendency to rotate. Well, if it rotates to the right, that's not going to hurt much, because that, it can only go so far, and then it's kind of fully released and it can't go anymore. Well, if it decides to turn to the left, again, the deeper you go, the more it turns. Eventually, you're going to get to a spot where the tool might want to set on you. So to mitigate that, we recommend at least every 5 to 10 stands, preferably every 3 to 5 stands. Just grab a pipe wrench and give it a turn to the right. We recommend a pipe wrench, not the tongs. I know tongs is way easier, but you kind of create a whole nother list of issues if you use tongs. So if you're using a pipe wrench, you can kind of tell, oh, it's already released, or hey, actually there is a half turn I was able to get out of it. And if you do that, again, you're just kind of giving yourself and the tool the best opportunity to set, and it eliminates a lot of issues and heartache and bad thoughts and words in the universe if people would just do that.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for that. Again, that's why we love having our experts like you on here to, provide some of those little tactical things that can make a big difference. I guess we got a minute or two left here, taking a step back, sort of big picture implications. We'll go back to Bruce here, thinking about, stimulation techniques and well treatments, what kind of impact should, operators be thinking about when they're deploying these slim style anchors? Are there impacts? Are there considerations that they should have? Again, sort of bigger picture considerations on those things.
Well, in terms of treating a well down the backside, there's no difference in metallurgy or design or anything that would affect batch treating or chemical treating or acid xylene jobs down the backside at all, in terms of the TechTAC anchor degrading or anything. There's no issue there at all with the metallurgy, the design, or the springs or the slips. Mandrel, there's nothing there, but there is an advantage in terms of if you're treating the well down the backside. Of course, there you go. You have less of a restriction, less of a choke point. So, let's say you're doing dump jobs, whether it's paraffin solvent or you're just doing cheap spot acid jobs down the backside of the formation, soak jobs. With less of a restriction, you can get your job down there easier, under less pressure, and there's no buildup of anything that would stop your treatment from getting down to the perf. So again, another side advantage of having a slim line where it's just about area. It's just about that space between the anchor and the casing wall, and that affects everything. And that's the basis behind the TechTAC design. Like I say, we validated it with the CFD, and when you see more gas production and less gas locking, that the gas is flowing up the annulus and no choke point. So in terms of a treatment or a dump job or a batch job or introducing chemical on a slipstream, you're chemical down or you're getting your treatment down much easier, and there's no chance of plugging off.
Great. All right. Well, thank you for that, Bruce. I guess we got about 1 minute left. So turn it back to both of you. Maybe Bruce, we'll start with you. One final closing thought, any other benefit or consideration here quickly that, again, you want to make sure our audience is aware of when it comes to, running this technology?
No, just simple, easy to understand, easy to deploy, and tons of advantages to, in numerous ways. We've shown mathematically and common sense wise to increase production. It's easy, it's understandable, it's common sense, and it will increase production one way or another.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Right, 40 years plus of experience, simple, effective, deployable. There we go. Luke, how are we going to top Bruce's summation of what we've been talking about here today?
Yeah, that's hard one to top, but I mean, I guess more of the specifics. We work with both the largest and the smallest, service companies, pump shops. That's who our dealers or our clientele are. So, if you're currently running a tubing anchor, the chances are we're already set up with your tubing anchor, supplier, or if we're not, it's really easy to do. We make the process as simple as we can. We can contact them, get set up, and then as little delay as possible, we'll be able to start supplying tubing anchors to your company. We have locations, we're in Texas, Oklahoma, Utah, North Dakota, and kind of anywhere in between. We work with the dealers, and they're our lifeblood. We love our dealers. They're great to work with, and it also kind of gives you that relationship where we're not trying to change too much. Like, hey, it's a new tool, new everybody. No, it's a new tool. It's the same crew you're dealing with, same setting style, just the benefits of both worlds, of the B2 and the Slimline.
Great. All right. Well, Luke, Bruce, we really appreciate you joining us for today's SPE Tech Talk on boosting well production up to 100% with one downhole change. If people do want to learn more, obviously, about what we talked about here today, what is the best way for them to go ahead and get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Go to TechTAC.com. We have a whole host of areas that we're in. Call whatever number. You can email info@TechTAC.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. We work with people all over the United States and internationally as well. So give us a call.
All right, perfect. Well, to our audience, again, you heard the invitation there to continue the conversation, continue learning more about this topic. Once again, Luke, Bruce, I want to thank you for joining us. I certainly want to offer a special thanks to today's sponsor, TechTAC. And for those of you out there who wish to watch or encourage somebody else to watch a replay of this episode, you can do so on the SPE Energy Stream, the industry's digital pulse. Visit streaming.spe.org. I'm your host, Joe Sinnott. Join us again next time, right here on SPE Tech Talk.
Don't miss a moment of any of the great SPE LinkedIn Live events. From the event page, click Attend and Add to Calendar for notification reminders when an SPE LinkedIn Live event is ready to begin. SPE Lives, Tech Talks, Get to Know series, and more. Remember, click Attend on LinkedIn.
In a rapidly evolving energy industry, you need to stay ahead of the curve with relevant content available when and where it's convenient for you. You need the upgraded SPE Energy Stream, the global platform for high-quality content with the energy industry. Fuel your energy career with Energy Stream's sleek new look and easy access to top-quality technical solutions, insights and innovations, trending topics, thought leadership, market outlooks, and education. From original programs to exclusive SPE event highlights, this exciting, easy-to-navigate platform features insightful content delivered live and on demand. Explore insights from industry thought leaders. Then save the videos that interest you and watch them at your convenience. Be at the forefront of energy knowledge and explore the newly updated SPE Energy Stream now.
The Society of Petroleum Engineers presents SPE Tech Talk. Today's Tech Talk is brought to you by TechTAC.